Ready? What did you underline in this first problem as key VIPs? What is it that's important? Leah. Okay. I'm going to underline 5 of 25. And then what else? Jen?
Seventh grade students.
Okay, I can do that. What are they asking you to find? Because that's going to be a key aspect as we move forward, is what are they asking us to find? Jay? I'm going to put that in parentheses. So they're asking us to find a percentage. Let's keep that in mind because we now know that our answer is going to be a percent. We're going to set up our template, our ratio, and our find much in the same way as we always have. Before I do the double line diagram, let's do TRF, and then we'll work backwards and we'll work our way up. In our TRF, what's the top and what's the bottom? What's that top number representing? Well, what will the top number represent? Nick. Okay, so I'm going to label that 7th grade girls. Over, what's the bottom? Cecilia. All of the girls. Great. Now, I'm going to introduce something new to you, the terms part and whole. Because as you'll see, that's going to become really important in the second half of lesson 26 and 27 and 28. This whole idea of, well, what's the part and what's the whole? So what is being represented by part? Is that the 7th grade girls or is that all of the girls? The part is what, Jay? Right. So I want you to actually label this part and put it in parentheses. The whole, which is all of the girls, is the bottom part. We'll be using those terms a lot. Now I'll go back to the problem, and it's 5 out of 25. That 5 is representing what? What's the quantity? 5 what? Brandon. Look at it again. Look at it again. 5 of the 25 girls on Alden Middle School soccer team are Kira. Those 5 out of 25 are 7th grade girls. Go back to your template ratio. That's our top. 5 out of how much, everybody? Just say it. 25 is the whole. Okay? That's why. This 5 is representing the part of the entire 25. That's why we're calling the top part the part, and the whole is everything together. And that's represented by 25. Equals there's nothing left here, but they are asking for a percent. So we now know that our second ratio is something over 100. Because they're asking for percent, which makes sense because what really percent is part of the whole. They're asking for part. Part is percent. Everything's now set up. Take a look at your relationship between your two ratios. What are you multiplying by? We're multiplying by 4. Therefore, 5 times 4 gives us our percent, which is how much, Jay? 20%. And that's how you do it with TRF. I'm going to show it to you as a double line diagram as well, because there are some kids that like to do double line diagrams. Here it is as a double line diagram. My 2 lines are this and this. It doesn't matter whether you call the top line the percentage line or the bottom. I'm going to do it as the bottom. This is going to represent my percent. 0%, which is nothing, to 100% the whole. They've given you a head start by dividing up your line into 5 segments. So if I take my percentages, I know I got to start at 0 and I got to end at 100. What do I have to count by evenly? Dan, let's see if it works. 20, 40, 60, 80, and 100. It works. The top part is representing my girls. We start at 0, and our whole is 25 girls. What do I have to count by? Yeah, just say it. 5. All right, count by 5s. 5, 10, 15, 20. Pretend that we never did TRF. Pretend this is all you're doing. All you now need to look at is, okay, 5 out of 25. Here's my 5 out of my 25, and that's representing 20%, and that goes here. Okay? Barchi said it's easier, and I agree, it is easy, but just bear in mind one thing. They're giving you a head start by giving you a tape diagram divided up into fifths. If they gave you nothing, how do you know what to divide it by? That's the question, and I'll give you a hint with that here in a minute. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Same middle school, same total number of girls, 25. However, read through this now because they're asking you for something different. And then I'm going to ask you what the VIPs are, and I'm going to ask you what is it that we're trying to find. First things first, what is the total amount of girls? Lil. That's a key VIP. It's still 25 girls total. What else is a VIP? Caitlin.
Then 40% also play on the travel team.
This 40% is a factor. Finally, and it's an important question, what are they asking for? Jay.
How many of the girls on the middle school?
I'm going to put that in green. Okay, I'm going to take it a step further. I'm going to ask you this. Jay, are they asking for a number or are they asking for a percent? Are we sure? See, they give us percent, bud. It's in reverse now. We've got to figure out that 40% out of those 25 girls, how many actual girls is that? That's what we're doing. So our answer is going to be not percent, but how many girls is that 40% equal to? Let's set up our template. What's our top? M. Okay, travel girls we'll call it. Our bottom hasn't changed. That's still total girls. What's the part? What's the whole? Come on up and do it. Write it out. I'm going to constantly ask you for part and whole because it comes into play in the second half of this lesson and really comes into play for 27 and 28. And if, at this point, if you want to abbreviate it as P and W, that's fine too. Okay. This is one of those instances where if they give you a percent in the word problem, that's one entire ratio, a top to bottom ratio. So we have 40 over 100. I'm going to start with that. When they give you a percent, you have an entire ratio. Equals. That 25, is it the part or is it the whole? Karen, it is the whole. Whole is bottom. They are asking you for the part. See, where you place everything becomes really important. So you're always going to ask yourself, what are they asking for? The part, the whole, the percent? We can now make a division connection and realize that we're dividing both the top and the bottom by how much? Just say it.
4.
Very good. And what do you get? 10 girls out of those 25 are playing on the travel team. Here it is, it's a double line diagram. Again, they give you that head start. We're dividing it up into fifths. So 0 to 100%, no different from the double line diagram on the previous example. We're going to count by 20s. No different with the total number of girls. Start at 0. The whole is 25. We count by 5s. And then again, making believe that you know nothing from TRF. If you go back to this, they give you the percent. You find your 40% down here, and then you can connect it to 10 girls. And that works also. Now I want to show you a little secret. You ready? They give you a head start with double line diagram, and they divide it up into fifths. How do you figure out what to divide your line by? They gave you nothing here, and you said, oh, I want to do a double line diagram. You've got to decide, how am I breaking it up? Am I breaking it up into halves, into fifths, into tenths? How can you figure out what to divide it by?
You put 100 at the end of it, and you see how many times that number can go to 100.
But it's going to start at 0 and go to 100. We know that. My question is how, if they gave you nothing, how do you know how to divide it up by? Kelly, what do you think? See, yeah, it's that figuring out of how many lines that you need in between 0 and 100 or 0 and 25. That's the tricky part, but here's your secret. Ready? I want you to do me a favor. I want you to take this ratio right here, and I want you to find the value of that ratio. First one to do it gets a ticket. Find the value of 40 to 100. Well, Laura, you had your first hand up, so you got to get first crack. It is 2/5. Ready? Here comes magic. Here comes the magic. You ready? 2/5. What's the denominator? That tells you that you are breaking up your line into fifths. Okay? Where are you going? It's in my desk drawer. Okay? And I'll take it a step further. Look, if I use 2/5, and I take my other ratio here, which is blank over 25, I could figure it out this way too. 5 times 5 is 25, and 2 times 5 is 10. Now the reason why I bring that up is because finding the value of the ratio when trying to find the equivalent ratio, when you do that, it's going to sometimes make it easier. As you will see, what example is this, 1 or 2? It's going to come in handy for example 3. Let's go to 3. Same thing, read over the question, get the VIPs, and we'll come back and talk about it. I'm going to ask you to go a step further too. This is what I want you to do. After you read through the problem and get your VIPs, take all of what you know and plug it into a template ratio find. Put all the numbers where they belong, but don't actually find an answer yet. Just set it up And I'll call one of you guys up to the board to actually just write it out. But don't find the missing number yet. Plug in everything that they give you, including your template labels, okay? And then we'll come back. All right, Connor's going to set everything up for us. And I'll kind of talk everybody else through as to why we're doing it this way. All right, now finish it up, stop right there, okay? Connor, this is for you. Where's the part, what's the whole? Okay, good. Understand that the games that they won is part of the whole, okay? How many games they played is going to be a larger number. That's all of the games for the entire season. As soon as you get that percentage, you have a full ratio. 80% is 80 over 100. That's one full ratio. Okay, equals. Over blank, right? Put the slash. This is everything now set up properly. Okay, some of you still need to get to this point. I realize that. You're still struggling with creating your template ratio. Once you have this created, you can have a seat now, bud, thanks. I want you to take a look at something. When you look at your 80 to 12, it's very difficult to figure out what 80 divided by what makes 12. And if you do it, you're not going to get an even number. It doesn't go in evenly. Here's a strategy, here's a trick, here's a secret. Find the value of the ratio. Everybody do it. What's 80 to 100 reduced in simplest form? I see more and more hands going up, but I'm just going to let everybody kind of work through it because I want to see more hands. It's an important skill that you need to kind of learn how to do anyway. Simplifying fractions to simplest form is so valuable in so many ways. All right, Nick Nito, what do you got? It winds up being 4 over 5. I'm going to rewrite it as 4 over 5 equals, I'm going to take this original ratio that we're trying to find, 12 over something. What's nice about finding the value of the ratio is now we can figure out this relationship so much easier without having to do long division and wind up with decimals and fractions. 4 times what makes 12, everybody? 5 times 3 is going to make, that's the total amount of games in the season, 15 total games. What's also an advantage of finding the value of the ratio is we now know that this denominator tells us that we've got to break up our double line diagram into fifths. Our percent hasn't changed. We're going to still count by 20s. Now what? Well, let's give this a label first. I know my girls have to go from 0, but I don't know what the ending number is. This is the number that we were trying to figure out, is the whole. But I do know this. I know, because they tell us in the problem, that 80% is 12. So I'm going to go to my 80, and I have my 12. This is what's given to us. How do you figure this out? Ev? Or Gav?
Counting by 3.
How did you know that?
Because,
He says we're counting by 3s, and he's right.
when we get here F, we multiply
All right, so you kind of used your TRF division multiplication factor to figure it out, which is kind of interesting too. But make believe you never did TRF.
And you put 12 here. You could you could count down.
You could.
Because the constant is 3.
Constant is 3. That's true. What do you think, Kev? That's interesting too. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. 4 to 12. 4 into 12 goes 3 times, so you know you're counting by threes. Another way to do it, only because we're running low on time. What's half of 80%? Say it. Therefore, what's half of 12? That's 6. What's half of 40%? What's half of 6? 0, 3, 6, blank, 12. Now I know that's 9. I know my constant is 3. And I'm able to get 15 that way. Okay? This is one of those instances where TRF might be easier than a double line diagram. It doesn't matter. You do what works best for you, as long as you pick a strategy. Okay, you guys are going to go into your groups and you're going to do the next page together. That's exercises 1 through 4 with the mammals, reptiles, amphibians, insects, and everything else that makes noise.